Good morning. My name is Susan, and I'll be your host today for Soul School Network. This is Sunday, the 12th of May, and we are delighted today to be hearing about the journey to ayahuasca. And first of all, though, I would just like to let you know that this meeting is being recorded. And for those of you who are watching the recording or those of you who are joining us on YouTube, welcome, good morning, and thank you for joining us. And to all who is with us on Zoom, we appreciate you choosing to be here with us this morning. And happy Mother's Day to those of you who are celebrating. And, if you're not a mother, let us just acknowledge the divine mother within all of us, the compassion, the love, the mothering that any one of us can do. And so happy Mother's Day to everybody. And it seems appropriate that we are talking about ayahuasca today because often ayahuasca is referred to as Mother Ayahuasca. And so we're going to learn today from Soul School facilitators Dan and Koryanka about their experience with ayahuasca, and they're going to offer us guidance and insight. And so I look forward to hearing about it. So I think it's always nice to start off with a short meditation, just to sort of bring us all together and set aside any busyness that has already started with our day. And so I'm going to share my screen to do that. Koryanka will not be able to have her video on today, but you're going to see her beautiful face in this video meditation that she is actually leading. And so I'm going to share my screen and we will do this video meditation. So let's see if we can have all the technical gods with us. So here we go.
Lie down or sit in a comfortable position. To start, you might close your eyes if that feels good. Take 3 deep, relaxing breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. One more time. In through the nose, out through the mouth. We'll start scanning our bodies for any tension there might be. Starting at the head. We'll do this together. We'll just observe without making any meaning out of it. Scan the crown of your head, the back of your head, your face and neck, your shoulders, one arm and then the other, all the way down to your hands. Now your back, from the neck all the way down to the final bone of the spine. You can focus your attention now on your chest and your abdomen. Are there any sensations so far? Any muscle tension? Just observe it for now. Continue with your right leg and foot and your left leg and foot. Wherever you found tension, let it go gently by visualizing that it is a white cloud that slides down your body all the way to your feet, leaving your body through the soles of the feet. Perhaps there will be many clouds of tension leaving your body. That's great. You're letting them go. You can feel good about it. Once tension is out of your body, it will be gone and transformed into life-giving energy. Let's take a deep, relaxing breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Let it feel good. You can stretch your body and make sure you are comfortable wherever you are. You are a beloved child of God and the earth, deeply connected to her. Notice how your feet are planted on the ground, either physically or energetically at all times. Feeling the earth with the soles of your feet. Feel how your energy grows and extends itself from the soles of your feet towards Mother Earth. You are growing energetic roots that go into the moist, rich soil under your feet, uniting with the Mother, receiving nourishment and love from her. The more your roots extend and go deeper and deeper into the earth, the more you feel deeply grounded and held in love by Mother Earth. Stay present in this moment. You can feel it. Remain grounded and present in this moment. Grounded and present. Grounded and present. You can gently go back to your breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And one more time. Now you can slowly open your eyes when it feels good to you, and move your body slowly as you come back. Enjoy a beautiful day.
Wow. Thank you, Koryanka, for that beautiful meditation. And so let us carry on with the topic of the day, the journey to ayahuasca with Dan and Koryanka. And so I'm going to guide the conversation with some questions. And firstly, I'd really like to know, how did each of you come to the ayahuasca journey? And so Dan, if you don't mind, I think we'll start with you, please.
Sure. Thank you, Susan. So I when I found out about ayahuasca, it was a very I was looking for something to cure my depression. So I had gone through a rather large business failure, and was like really questioning everything about my life because of the stress and everything. And so I actually stumbled across ayahuasca in a research on its pharmacological effects for depression curing. So one of the things I found an obscure article written back in the 1920s from the London Journal of Medicine, or one of the United Kingdom medical records, and it showed that ayahuasca, after one treatment, would cause the serotonin receptors in your brain to grow. And serotonin is one of those happiness drugs in the mind. And so I was approaching it from a very Western medical perspective. And so I went and dove headfirst, went down to Peru and did a dieta. I'd never done any drug at all in my life, other than alcohol, which is, I guess, the Western opiate. So it was kind of a surprising to the shaman there, because many people who come to ayahuasca kind of come through experimentation with psychedelics, and I'd never done any of that stuff. And I was, again, approaching this from a pure medical perspective. And I ended up having a full spiritual awakening when I went there for this, and it cured my depression. But my approach was really as an alternative cure to Western medicine. I didn't want to go on antidepressants. I've always been into natural cures, and so I looked at this from a natural cure. And so I approached it very differently than most people do, because most people go to ayahuasca from a more of a spiritual perspective. Now, what was interesting is going down there, and we'll talk about this later, is the experience itself gave me a full spiritual awakening and it just shifted my perspective on everything I thought about the world. And we can talk about that a little bit later, but that's what led me to it. Is I was looking for a natural cure for my depression, and was given a gift far greater than what I went down there for.
Wow. How many years ago was that, Dan?
That was in 2007. So yeah, this is before ayahuasca was really had started to go mainstream. And so a lot of people thought I was crazy. So going into the jungle of Peru for a month, because we were on the headwaters of the Amazon on the Ucayali River outside of Pucallpa. So it was very, very remote, and beautiful experience, but it was not an easy experience, that's for sure.
No, I've heard of many experiences around ayahuasca, and it wasn't easy. However, the data that's come out in the last few years around antidepressants and the difficulties with those, I think you made a wise choice, because it's not easy to get off antidepressants once people are on them. The physical withdrawal is tough. So excellent. That's an amazing way to get into it. Great. So let's hear from Koryanka. Koryanka, please do tell us how you came to ayahuasca.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to share. Well, after a deep night of the soul, I had a really terrible experience of awakening. It was pretty harsh. I was guided to spiritual guides who, at some point, all of them said to me, you need to go back to Peru and heal with your own medicine. The medicine in Peru is powerful. And I listened, and so I prepared myself to make the trip. Back then I was living in Canada. Many people from North America, I made my way, overseas to Peru, to Cusco, for my very first ceremonial healings. It all started with Incan ceremonies the first time. It was a wonderful experience where I was able to connect with the spirit guides. I was able to feel for the first time connection with Mother Earth as well. And I experienced bliss, which is something I had never experienced before. And I believe it's then around that time when I was in Peru that ayahuasca came to my awareness. I went back to Canada and I did a little bit of research about ayahuasca, the benefits and the indigenous traditional cultural aspect of it as well. And I embarked on that journey about 8 months later. Again, I came back to Cusco and I had my very first ayahuasca ceremony, which was really transformational. I went very, very deep. I did wonderful healing work. I came with a vision and a very clear intention. My intention was to do plenty of healing. I wanted to heal my relationship with myself. I wanted to do lots of forgiveness, forgiving myself and others around me as well. And I got to do that and much more. I had also in that ceremony an encounter with my grandmother and a soul sister who were already in the realm of spirit. And I also had an experience of bliss. Then once again, it was so wonderful that the work already I could feel the results because that informed the rest of my life, together with the Incan ceremonies and ayahuasca. It was a true transformational experience because everything changed from there on. I left my career. I embarked on the Incan priestess path, the medicine woman's path. All of that opened up. I rediscovered my life purpose thanks to the ceremonies.
Wow. And how long ago was that, Koryanka?
Probably maybe 13 years by now or so, something like that.
Excellent. And so maybe you can expand on that and answer, this question. What are the spiritual, emotional, and medical benefits of an ayahuasca ceremony?
Yes, well, let me talk about the emotional and spiritual benefits. And I think that Dan will be best at answering about the medical benefits. But, well, after my own healing and embarking on the journey of being the Incan priestess and medicine woman, I have met many, many people, especially we have been working with women but also some men. And we have done many ceremonial immersions where ayahuasca was one of the ceremonies involved. So I have been able to hold people's hands through the experience and support them go through the ayahuasca ceremonies and also witness what they're receiving and the results as well. Well, there are people who have come for deep healing, of course, healing of childhood woundings, um, heartbreaks, lack of self-trust, self-doubt, not knowing themselves, wondering, what to do with their lives. There have been people who have healed relationships with their own bodies, distorted visions of who they are. We had people seeing themselves beautiful for the first time in an ayahuasca ceremony, whereas before they thought that they were ugly, not good enough, perhaps. There have people who have come with many fears and they have let go of those fears. There are people who had really difficult relationships with people in their lives and they wanted to find peace and make peace with those people. And in the ceremonies, they were able to do it. There have been many, many beautiful benefits. People who have discovered their life purpose, people who have discovered who they are and what they truly are here for in this earth. So, very profound experiences. Also, part of the ayahuasca ceremony for some people is to see themselves in past lives. They get in touch with their past lives. Also, they get information about their life mission and also information about next steps for them. And that's wonderfully, valuable for them because now they know, what is for their souls, for their souls to do, and they can then take it from there. And yes, that is an important piece too. That like the spiritual guide that was my first healer in ayahuasca ceremony, and we remain working together. Well, he says 50% of the work is in the ceremony and the other 50% happens after the ceremony. And that's what people do later on, with whatever they receive. Then they have a mission to take action and to take that further.
Wow. Transformative. Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
gee. It's so interesting. I've never done ayahuasca. So when you hear this kind of description, it makes me think about it, I will say.
Mm.
Um, thank you, Koryanka. And Dan, perhaps you can tell us your thoughts around the well, certainly the medical benefits. You've touched on that. Maybe spiritual, emotional as well, please.
Sure. So I think the most profound thing for me when I did it in Peru was it was the first time ever that I felt true unconditional love. So as a child, you're unconditionally loved by your parents, but and you feel it, but it was like to be truly loved by the divine is what it was. It's like you basically touch God and you feel a love that you never knew existed, where you're forgiven and you're unconditionally loved by divinity. And that was super profound for me. I'd never felt that before. And the reason I never felt it before is I never allowed myself to feel it because it's always there. You're always loved. It's around you at all times, but we're disconnected from it. And so that was a complete life-changing perspective for me because it just you knew everything's going to be okay no matter what happens. So again, it set me on a whole spiritual path, and I've been spending the last 20 years of my life exploring that. But just from again, I'll kind of take the Western perspective today in our discussion, just talking through the medicinal sides of this. Um, so ayahuasca, it's there's two plants that the brew is generally made from. The primary plant is called Banis capi, which is the ayahuasca vine, which is also called the vine of the soul, and it has a chemical in there called harmaline B, which is a monoamine oxidase inhibitor. And this is why you have to be very careful when you do ayahuasca because the monoamine oxidase inhibitors are very interactive with other pharmacological drugs. So one of the things they're going to tell you is if you're on SSRIs, the serotonin reuptake inhibitors that are common in antidepressants, is you need to be off them for at least 6 months up to a year before you attempt to do ayahuasca. And the reason is one, ayahuasca makes your serotonin receptors grow, and the serotonin reuptake inhibitors actually flood your system with serotonin. And so you actually have an elevated level of serotonin for the antidepressive effect of those SSRIs, which then cause the serotonin receptors to actually shrink. Okay, which gives you that addiction to the antidepressants. And so you have to go off of those because if you don't, you can get what's called serotonin toxicity because now all of a sudden your body's growing these receptors. You keep taking the SSRIs, you're flooding your system with serotonin. It can create a lot of medicinal complications for you. Then there's the other side of the brew, which is called chacruna, and that is the plant that has dimethyltryptamine in it, which is the God molecule. And the version in chacruna, it's called NN-DMT, which is the one that people see the little elves and so forth. And so they say that the DMT is the flashlight, and the Banis capi or the ayahuasca vine is the connection to your soul. And so you can actually just journey on the vine once you've kind of opened yourself up and get these deep connections. So medicinally, what I found that it does is the ayahuasca brew itself is extremely alkaline, and so it does a lot of work on your intestinal system. Which if when you start to understand the body, you'll find that we have three brains: we have our gut, we have our heart, and we have our mind. And so ayahuasca works on all of these. And so you have the psycho spiritual side of things, but it also goes through. And when you're in ceremony, often she will scan your whole body for you and tell you where there are problems. And it's amazing how many friends that I've gone through ceremony with who have pinpointed the cancers or the different diseases that they have and they didn't know they had, because the medicine communicates with you and will tell you where you're wrong. And if you are abusive to yourself with junk food and things like that, she doesn't treat you kindly. So, when you're polluting yourself and not treating yourself with respect, if you go into a ceremony without properly preparing yourself and cleaning yourself, they will be very difficult ceremonies because the strong alkaline nature of the medicine will adversely interact with the acidic nature of a junk food diet. giving you stomach cramps and adding all sorts of emotional challenges during the ceremony. So it to me, it's probably one of the most powerful medicines of the plant kingdom that you'll ever find, both from a pharmacological perspective, but then also the psychospiritual perspective. It's really, truly magical. And Western medicine is just beginning to scratch the surface of this stuff. There's over 1,000 alkaloids in the Banis vine, and we've identified, a handful of them. And those are generally the psychoactive ones. But there's so many other magical components in there that, hopefully as society starts awakening to indigenous medicine, we'll study it more and start to understand the incredible powerful nature of all of these alkaloids interacting together on our bodies, because it truly is an incredible healing experience.
Well, thank you, Dan. And I've certainly heard a lot of stories where there was a lot of vomiting and so on. And these were even people who'd done the 2-week dieta, or the preparation, sorry, before it, and so, yeah, clearly preparation is a key piece with ayahuasca.
Yeah, there's two types of vomiting, in a sense, off the medicine. It's actually a beautiful experience when you purge. I know so many people are averse to the purging side of things. If you're purging because you ate a bunch of junk food and all that, that's obviously that's never going to be fun. But the majority of the purging is the psychological purging. We hold our pain in our physical bodies. And specifically, it's the psoas muscles that where we hold all of our trauma, which runs along the vagus nerve as well. And so what will happen is you'll have these purges where that muscle is releasing that scar tissue. And it's when you hear an ayahuasca purge, it's a completely it's one of the most unique sounds you'll ever hear, because it's almost like a demon being pulled out of the deepest, darkest recesses of your body. And when you actually have the purge and you get that demon out, or that dark energy, I don't want this will sound weird, but it's almost orgasmic, like on a spiritual level. You're pulling this deep pain out. And usually you're not even vomiting that much. It's more of this convulsion as you're pushing this energy out of your body. And when it's done, it's like pulling that thorn out of the foot, that's been in your foot forever. It's like this sense of relief is just overwhelming. It's like, oh, I finally got it. I'm free of this thing that has been plaguing me. And the awakenings that happen, people often will all of a sudden remember traumas that happened in childhood and so forth, because these are these deep embedded scar tissues that are at the soul level, and ayahuasca helps you release those. And that's the magic that Koryanka does with her practice, because they help you get to those things and get those things out.
Yes, and you're reminding me of a friend who was on an ayahuasca journey, and there was a man who was part of this. They were together for days, and he was very angry for whatever reasons, unclear. But she said that as a result of doing the ayahuasca ceremony, she said the vomiting was like black tar that came out of him, and she said the rest of the time he was like soft and gentle and kind, and like it was like he had purged some demon out of him. And that's how he felt too, and he was really transformed. And so it was it's not like vomiting like you have the flu kind of thing. It sounds like it's a different kind of experience.
You don't even know where some of this stuff comes from. It's so deep in you. It's just shocking. Yeah, it's a fascinating. It's a convulsion almost of this, your body rejecting this darkness that's in you, and it just rips it out of you. It's a beautiful thing.
Wow. I didn't say this earlier, but for this audience, whoever's listening or the recording, this disclaimer, of course, that this is personal experience. We're not offering medical advice, but it does lead me though into, Dan, what would you advise people who feel called to Mother Ayahuasca for them to be safe, really?
Do your research. So before I did ayahuasca, I researched it for 2 years. I read everything, and back then there was nothing on this, so I was scouring old medical journals because there was a bunch of stuff done back in the 20s and 30s on this. And so I did my own research. The key is to find a good shaman. And Koryanka can talk to this in detail, but one of the challenges is ayahuasca's gone mainstream. So you have it's been monetized, and so you've brought the cult of Babylon into the into the mix, and it's sad because now you have a lot of people. There's a center in Costa Rica where they'll literally do ceremonies for 1,000 people at a time. And it's like, that's not what ayahuasca is about. It's not just to go, oh, I'm going to go on a hippie trip. No, this is a deep spiritual, physical experience, and you need to find a good shaman, and you got to find someone you can trust. Do your research on them, because the intention of the shaman and the intention of the ceremony is so critical. It's like, our intentions manifest our reality. And so if you are in an environment where it's not, Terrence McKenna says this all the time. It's like, it's set and setting. When you do psychedelics, it's set and setting. You want to be in a safe environment with good intention, because you're going to go into a very deep personal experience. You're going to open yourself up to the energies of the universe. And so, doing ayahuasca, in Vegas would not be a good experience, because you're just around all these bad energies, and you open yourself up in these things that can come in. So, my recommendation to anybody is, you'll be called to ayahuasca, be patient, do your research, talk to people, really make sure it's right for you. And then when you do decide to do it, be very intentional, do all the prep work, follow the diet, follow all the rules, because there's a reason they're there. Because if you don't, you might not have a good day. So it is not something to be approached lightly. It's an incredibly powerful, it's a life transforming experience. People will put it up there with having a child. It's that just mind blowing. It's usually one of the top couple experiences of a lifetime doing the medicine.
Mhm. Wow. And yet, living in Peru, I've come to know that in certain parts, there's people who seem to be doing ayahuasca like a few times a week, like using it recreationally. Like it's hard to imagine that the body can take it, really. That's not the intention at all, and intention matters.
Yeah, I would question how deep they're able to go. They're not going deeper and deeper. They kind of found that spot and they stopped at it.
Interesting. Thank you. I'm going to turn off my video because my internet's a little lagging here. Koryanka, please, I would love to hear from you, please, around your advice for people who are called to Mother Ayahuasca, for them to be safe, for it to be a good experience, please.
Yes, I agree with Dan completely, that it's important to make sure that you choose a good healer, a good spiritual guide, a real shaman. People call them sometimes shamans. They often don't call themselves that, just simply the ayahuasca healer. But there is so much out there, so many people now offering ceremonies. And we need to be very careful, because sometimes they are offering these ceremonies from a place of the ego. They are coming from, like Dan said, perhaps a desire to make money in a way that to them feels maybe easy, maybe enjoyable. But also there are the ones doing this because there is a sense of power in being a spiritual guide. To them, it feels like a little bit like a drug. It's not about the person they're helping, it's about them and themselves being important, feeling themselves better, perhaps bigger than other people. And with that, there are many, many, many risks, because if you do choose a shaman that is all about the ego, there can be many, many problems that, come your way in an ayahuasca ceremony. Um, so I would really, really advise to pay attention and listen to the voice of your soul, your own intuition, because not always the most famous shaman is a good shaman. Not always the person that someone else says is a great, great healer that did a great deal of healing for that person and maybe the friend of the friend necessarily is one to be trusted. And I'll tell you why. I have heard terrible stories of people who have known healers of ayahuasca ceremony, for instance, who have done many, many healing experiences for many people, and everything went well for those people. And yet that same healer has raped another participant of ceremony, has taken advantage of somebody else, or has seduced someone. And all of that would be absolutely wrong, even if it was consensual. It's not okay, because the spiritual guide, in this case, the ayahuasca healer, definitely is in a power position for many reasons. Being a man, being someone that has some knowledge, some specialized knowledge that the person is coming to him for help. And this person, the other person on the receiving end, might be very, very vulnerable emotionally and in every single way. If someone wants to heal, it's because you're not doing well and there is something inside of you hurting. So there might be also a lack of love and so many other things. So it's not okay, right, to someone that you come for help to take advantage of you. Um, so yes, make sure that you are very aware of the ego and observe and see first. Try to get to know the healer beforehand, and just kind of like listen for any signs. Is this a person that comes from the heart or is coming from the ego? So attitudes are important to witness and take a note of course, whatever he says. um, Sometimes there is a disconnect between what he says and what he does. Sometimes the same person that preaches about being humble and being out of love and all of that might be mistreating a worker, perhaps someone who is working with him or for him. Perhaps, the person doing the cleaning of the ceremonial space, stuff like that. And also, I would stay away from the super cool ayahuasca healer, the super cool guy that the ladies like. That is kind of like, yes, this is kind of guy that is magnetic to the women, that has that attitude that he's kind of flirting. I would stay away from that kind of person, because this is not what we are coming to a healer for. We're coming to him or her for spiritual support and guidance, and for this specific ayahuasca healer to help us do a great deal of healing and growth, right? So he has a mission. He has a mission, and he has also a reason to be there for you. He's not there to be primarily a friend, much less a lover or something else that can be found anywhere else. But the spiritual guide, the ayahuasca healer, that's what he needs to be to you. And he needs to keep his boundaries and be very respectful to everyone. That's part of being who he is, and in his role, that's what you expect. So yes, that would be my advice for anyone looking for ayahuasca ceremonies, since a lot of the spiritual guides in that kind of ceremony are men, and many of the people seeking spiritual healing and support are also women.
That's great advice, Korinka. And, it goes with what Dan says. It's, research on the medicine, research on the healer. A lot of preparation goes, into this, or hopefully goes into it, to support the best possible experience. And, you know, so maybe, can you speak a little bit then about maybe the physical preparation? You know, you said earlier that, you know, 50% is the ceremony and 50% is after the ceremony. So, you know, there would be integration and so on. So maybe you can expand a little bit on that side of things, please.
Yes. So there's both a mental and physical preparation for ceremony. The physical side of things is you know, basically a specific diet. There's certain foods you need to stay away from because they interact with the medicine. And the shaman that you work with, or the ayahuasca healer, will give you a list of things to avoid. But things like pork, cured meats, red meat, canned tuna, fermented foods, because they all have different chemicals in there that can cause an interaction with the medicine that can make your stomach upset. But frankly, what's the most important is the mental preparation. This is not something that you just sit there and go, oh, I'm going to go do this on a Friday night and go have fun. It's not that. You really want to get your mind set, and you really want to focus on your intention. You know, lots of walks in the woods and just clean yourself of those energies. But you know, so there's that part of it. But the most important part, honestly, is the post ceremony integration. The metaphor I always tell people is like, imagine yourself being a koi goldfish. Okay, you know, they swim in these koi ponds that are a foot deep, and you know, you reach in, grab the goldfish, pull it out of the pond, let it see the three-dimensional world, and then you drop it back in the pond. That fish then is trying to explain to the other fish what it experienced. There's this entire world above the water, because the fish just see the top of the water. They don't. It's like us looking at the stars, right? We don't really know what's there, but we think we do. It completely shatters your paradigm on the world, and how do you go back to your Western world where you're dealing with stress and working with all this, the regular world, when you've had this experience that completely shifted your paradigm on reality? You don't have anybody to talk to, because there's no one who's seen that before. And so, you have all this emotion that comes up. You have the traumas from your childhood, plus you have this entire shift of paradigm on what reality is. And so when you find a healer to work with, you really want to ask them about the post ceremony integration, because that is really where the real work is. And after I did ceremony my first time, a year later I would have dreams where all of a sudden something that I got during the ceremony just makes sense. Because it's, in a sense, it's like you're downloading a giant zip file into your brain from the divinity. And at the time, a lot of it you don't understand, because it's just so much information coming into you. But over time, your body and your mind start to unpack it, and it starts to make sense. And so having a person who you can talk to and say, like a lot of the groups that I've worked with, they will have monthly post ceremony integrations, where people share their experiences and talk about what they're going through. Because you need a peer group, or you need people who can kind of help guide you through this, because you're generally not going to find that when you go home into your normal daily environment, unless you're around people who've done this before. And so having someone who can kind of help you make sense of what you experienced, and you're going to have emotions that will be coming up, and it's almost like having a psychologist, that can help you understand what you're going through, because it really is a deep awakening of your soul, this process. And it's not the cure, it's the first step. And it will send your life on a completely different path. And it's a beautiful journey of awakening to your soul and awakening to who you really are. As Kuryaka said, she discovered her life's purpose. That's what these medicines do, is they connect you to your soul to help understand that purpose. But in the West, we're conflicted by our ego. And so post ceremonial integration is so critical to help navigate this awakening that you're going through.
And so Dan, that's interesting. When people would say get together then to have this circle and talk about things, would everyone be able to relate to each other? Like, on some level, the experience similar for people and at the same time very unique?
That's a beautiful question, Susan. So ayahuasca for me, I've worked with a lot of different plant medicines, and ayahuasca tends to be a very communal experience. Except unless you're in the really ridiculously large groups. Like if you're in a group of like 20 or 30 people, it's just chaos. But when you're in a small group of like 3 to 5 people, you'll find that the energies will intertwine. And so you'll often have shared experiences with people. You'll have your own personal experience, but you'll also find that the energy of the group and the different personalities will also involve in your experience. And so when you have these discussions afterwards, there's a high level of empathy because you can feel and understand, if you're doing the post integration, or excuse me, the post ceremonial integration with a group that you sat with. No ceremony is the same. I mean, I'm sure Koryaka can talk to this too, but I've done a lot of ceremonies, and every single one is unique and different. They rhyme, but they're always unique and different to the circumstances. And so you can still, even if you're talking to people who you've never sat with, there's still a ton of you can learn from what they went through and how they dealt with it, because it's 20 years of psychological therapy in a cup is what it is. In one night, you'll get done what you would spend 20 years of intense clinical psychology doing. But it's so much that you need people who kind of gone through something similar to understand it and share it. And when you get stuck on ideas that you can't get through. And so talking to people about it who have a similar, have gone through a similar experience, even though it's different, can help you understand yourself.
Wow. I've heard people describe it sort of like, and they received a teaching from the mother. And I guess the teaching that they got, we all get different teachings, depending on what it is you need, right? And so I guess that would shape your experience, what you need and then what you get.
Yeah, what I always tell people when they go into ceremony, it's like, don't go in with an expectation, because Mother Ayahuasca will give you what you need, not what you want. And she's a beautiful teacher, but she's also a stern grandmother. Will take you out to the woodshed and spank your butt if you don't if you're not respecting the ceremony. It's yeah, she's
Oh.
a beautiful teacher, but she's stern. There's no doubt about it.
So amazing. Thank you, Dan. And so Koryaka, please share your thoughts on the preparation and integration piece to this.
Mhm. Well, to me, preparation starts with, as we spoke earlier, choosing the shaman or the healer for your ayahuasca experience, and making the decision to step into the ceremony. And there is a difference there when you choose to go into ayahuasca ceremony, how you do this, how you come to that conclusion that this is something you're going to do. I have seen people being very successful with ayahuasca ceremonies because they did start the right way. They did feel the calling in their hearts. It was not just a bright idea in their heads, it actually was a calling in their hearts. And they responded to the calling. They took a leap of faith to go into the ceremony. And they do it with love, with respect, and with deep understanding that they're going to be taken through the experience by the spirit plant. They even start by developing a relationship with the plant beforehand. And that can be done through prayer, meditations, um, journaling. But there is something there, at the spiritual level, there is a conversation that starts with the spirit of the plant. And then they go into ceremony. By then, they are ready. They are ready and they are coming with the right kind of desire and with so much respect, which are very important elements. And then for the integration piece, people have different needs. I have noticed that Not two people are necessarily the same in what they need in the ways of integration, but some level, some kind of integration will be necessary for everyone. That's for sure. And I have seen that integration and even preparation is very little offered to people except for the physical dieta that Dan spoke about. There is not much anything else surrounding the ceremony. And that's really not in the best interest of people. People who are receiving the ceremony need the integration piece as well. So often that is sitting with the people that you had ceremony, whether that was a private or a group ceremony, that you can listen to each other, you can share the experience. The meaning of the experiences can be explained by the ayahuasca healer if that's not easily understood. That often is the case. So sometimes, the plants speak in signs and symbols and a different kind of language. And then also, perhaps later on, there will be a need for more integration. Um, yes, people need to understand what they have gone through and why they had the experiences they had, and then what to do with that, how to go about life now that they have changed, but everything else around them remains the same. So yes, those are very, very important pieces, and I'm glad we're talking about them.
Me too. And you and Dan are driving home. The thought I've because I live in Peru, people have often asked me about ayahuasca, and I haven't done ayahuasca, and they're like, well, why haven't you? You're there. And it's like, I don't have the calling. And when I have the calling, then I'll pursue it, but it's until then, I'm waiting, and
Yeah.
I'm not looking to force something, to make something happen that I haven't felt
Mhm.
the calling.
That is so true. I mean, ayahuasca is a wonderful grandmother healer, wise teacher plant, but it's not for everyone. And it's okay that it's not for you. I mean, talking to everyone here listening, it's okay if it's not for you. If you find that it's not for you, it's okay. There might be another medicine for you. There might be another way to receive the healing and do the growth that you want to do. But yes, ayahuasca grandmother, she's gonna call the people who she's gonna work with, that she knows she is the medicine for them, and that's important to note. That it's not about this being a strategic move or doing something from the head because everyone is doing it, because people are telling you it's so amazing, you have to do it. No, it's not true. You don't have to do it. And it's just important to do that, to listen to your own soul. What do you really feel inside of you rather than what everyone is saying you should do?
Well, and it sounds amazing, and I'm absolutely open to it. And the day could come, who knows? I imagine it very well could. I have done San Pedro once, and it was an incredible experience. And I can see, though, that it's not, it's very different. I mean, it's just a very different experience than what you and Dan are describing here. And I would highly recommend it. It was a beautiful, incredible experience. And it's not, I don't feel like it was the teaching, it wasn't that kind of an experience, but it was very profound. I would use the word you used earlier, which was bliss. It was absolute bliss for me. I loved every minute of it, and I'm not called really to do that again at the moment anyway. So I have great respect for this medicine. And I'm so grateful to both of you for sharing your experience with us. I'm wondering if anybody in our audience has any questions for Koryanka and Dan. This would be your opportunity. You could unmute, raise your hand, if you do. Michelle, please.
I just wanted to thank you both for sharing this information. I was on SSRIs for many years, got me when I was young. And that seems to be the go-to for Western doctors. So I'm really interested in this natural medicine now.
Well, I think it's but based on what Dan said, very wise.
So Michelle, there's things there. So when you look at ayahuasca, I talked about the Baniscapi vine. You can actually microdose with it. And there's another version of it from the Middle East. It's called Syrian rue. It's the actual Latin name is Pegnum harmala, and it has the same chemical in there. And there, if you actually look up Syrian rue, you'll find that there's actually a ton of medical research now being done using this for anxiety and depression. So you can, take small doses of that, and it starts to condition your body for it. But the hard part with SSRIs is getting off SSRIs because they generally are made with a fluoride molecule, so they calcify your pineal gland, and then they artificially increase your serotonin, which then causes your brain to downregulate the serotonin receptors. And so it's a very difficult thing, and it takes time to get off of them. But they're designed brilliantly because they, just like Ozempic with weight loss, it's like, oh, once we got you on it, we're going to have you on it for life. And so to me, it flipped me 180. I was dealing with depression. I was just under so much stress, and it completely 180'd me on my depression. I mean, I just came out of it. I was like, wow, I had a whole new lease on life and love with life. And I think it was a combination of both the spiritual side and the pharmacological side. But there's a way, if you can go buy, Baniscapi or buy Syrian rue, they're actually legal. There's when you mix them together, as they become a scheduled medicine. But that would be something to research for yourself if you want to understand some of the more medicinal qualities, because there's a lot of research being done on these compounds now, because they're so powerful to healing us naturally versus the pharmacological way.
Thank you, Dan. And well, some of you here would know that I'm a nurse, and I hope people know what has emerged, which is that SSRIs and other antidepressants and benzos and so on, it's become very clear that physicians who say, oh, cut your dose in half for 2 to 4 weeks, then cut it in half, and then you're good, actually no. Very, very serious side effects from a lot of people are experiencing that include suicide. But they've actually come to see now that you have to basically, not everybody, but many, many people have to reduce these drugs by 10%. And that could take up to 2 years to get off of these drugs, depending on your dose, in order for it to really be safe to do it. And unfortunately, in Canada, most of these drugs are not in a liquid form. So reducing them is very difficult. Cutting a pill into a quarter or something isn't a small enough way to do it. And so that's another thing to really consider researching, so that if you want to come off of an antidepressant and go down this path of natural medicine, that you do it in a way that's safe, because what the medical directions have been wrong, and people have been ridiculed and all sorts of horrible things said to them by healthcare providers when they're trying to get off these drugs. And it's a very serious matter. I think there's probably other medications too. I don't know if Koryanka can speak to it, but I think there are maybe beta blockers and other medications too. Like there is research. You have to do research for this to be a safe option if you're on other pharmaceutical medications. Other questions or comments for Dan and Koryanka? Okay, well, thank you very much for the information and for a really interesting conversation. I appreciate it. And I also really like the idea, we'll have this, of course, recorded on the website. And I like the idea that when people ask me about it, I can say, why don't you listen to the Soul School Network recording and hear from Dan and Koryanka? Because I'm I don't know enough about it, but you guys certainly have a ton of experience, and you can learn more about Dan and Koryanka on the Soul School Network website. So please do go there if you're interested. And you could also subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would be appreciated. We do have some interesting speakers ahead, and next Soul School Network, which would be on the 26th of May, you'll be hearing from Doug Goodfeather, who is somebody who Dan works with. So I'm sure it's going to be a delightful, insightful interview. So looking forward to that. And we typically close with the mantra of unification. And so I'm going to bring that up on the screen. We do have that on the Soul School Network website. And I will bring it up on the screen because it will make it easier for you to follow along. And so I'll do that right now. Here we go. Michael, did you want to say the mantra of unification, or would you like me to today? Okay, I'm going to take that as I'm going to do the prayer. Oh, there you are.
I'm ready, but you're
Okay.
much more primed to do it. You go ahead.
Okay, it'll be me
Yeah.
today. Thank you. Here we go. The mantra of unification. The souls of all are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form and life and all events, and bring to light the love that underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavages be gone. Let love prevail. Let all people love.
Mm.
Thank you.
Oh,
Miigwech.
And this is the Soul School Network website, and please check it out. We're just building it. There's not a lot of content quite yet, but we're getting there. We have the donate button here. We would appreciate any donation you might be able to send our way to support our expenses. Thank you for that. And so hope to see you next time. Thank you again, Dan and Koryanka, for your insight and information today. And please be in touch. Please contact us through the website if you have any questions, if you have ideas for speakers, if you have questions. I think we're going to be having potentially some open mic sessions over the summer that might be helpful to have some interesting conversations about some of the questions that you have raised and sent our way. So I do appreciate receiving your emails and your feedback. So thank you very much. Again, happy Mother's Day. Happy Divine Mother in you. And thanks so much for being here.
thanks everyone. Hey, Sue, can you hang out for just a minute so we can go over the next?
Yes, I'm going to stop the recording. Here we go somewhere. And actually, I was hoping that the those facilitators would stay on actually, so that we could have a meeting as